Good afternoon, everyone. It's an exciting day as we launch the next chapter in the storied tradition of Razorback Gymnastics. We're glad all of you are here. We want to welcome a few of our special guests. We're joined by a member of our Board of Trustees, Dr. Ed Fryer. Dr. Fryer, thank you for being with us. Chancellor Steinmetz sends his regrets. He's not able to be here, but we certainly have someone who represents and works with the Chancellor very closely every day, and we're glad to have Laura Jacobs here with us today. And of course, the MVP of Razorback Athletics, no, not Hunter Yurachek, but Jennifer Yurachek. We're glad to have you here. And as you'll see, many other head coaches are with us here today, and we're grateful for that. In just a few minutes, we'll formally introduce our new coach, and following some formal remarks, we'll do a Q&A with the media from the stage. But at this time, it's time to introduce our Vice Chancellor and Director of Athletics, Mr. Hunter Yurachek.
Thank you, Kevin. It was a little over 2 weeks ago, I stood at a similar podium and declared to the media I was done with head coaching searches. And then the following day, Mark Cook announced his retirement, and there we go again. But at least this time, I didn't have to buy a puppy. We haven't yet, have we? No, okay, just want to make sure. So before I get to the introduction of our new head coach, several thank yous. First, to our retiring head coach, Mark Cook. Mark, thank you for building the Razorback Gymnastics program from the ground up, and for your 17 seasons in which you led the Razorback Gymnastics program, and for the countless lives of young women that you have touched throughout your career. Thank you. And to our Senior Associate AD and Sport Administrator for Women's Gymnastics, Chris Pohl. Chris, where are you? Chris, stand up. Chris and I have been sidekicks for the last 2 weeks. You're tired of me, I'm tired of you. Is that even? To Chancellor Steinmetz, who could not be here today, and President Bobbitt, Board of Trustee Chair John Goodson, who sends his regards, and to the entire Board of Trustees, and for their support. Thank you very much, Dr. Fryer. And if I could have our gym backs, our Razorback Gymnastics student athletes, you guys all stand up, please. Keep standing, wait. Don't sit down yet. Chris and I want to thank all of you for your support, your input, and your patience during this process. And to Sarah and Jessica, thank you yesterday for volunteering to be our social media correspondents and getting this off to the right start. And thank you both for introducing me to the Gymternet, which is apparently a real thing. And finally, to our behind-the-scenes external team for the planning and execution of another extremely successful rollout for head coaching hire here at the University of Arkansas. It was unbelievable to see Razorback Gymnastics in the University of Arkansas trending across the country yesterday. So to our external team, thank you. Now, as this journey began to find a new head coach, Chris and I discussed characteristics and qualities we wanted to find in the person who would serve as the next face for our gymnastics program. Someone that would embody the important attributes of our program in this university. We focused on words and phrases such as passionate, energetic, a winner, character, integrity, love of gymnastics, a value on the total student-athlete experience, and of course, a desire to be an Arkansas Razorback. When we first met with Jordan, I can tell you, we were blown away. I went back to my computer to check, recheck, and triple check that she was 23 years old. And that's what it says on paper. But what you will learn, as I quickly did, Jordan has experienced more in and out of her competitive gymnastics arena than most of us will ever experience in a lifetime. And along the way, she's been influenced by some of the greatest people and mentors in the world of gymnastics. Her collective experiences have not only seasoned her as a person and as a professional, they have helped her to help strengthen her and define her overall character as a person. While her birth certificate might say she's 23, she is wise and mature well beyond her years. As I talk to trusted colleagues and people within the gymnastics world, as hard as I pushed for even a little nugget of dirt, no one could come up with anything negative to say about Jordan. She's ready and prepared to take on the challenge of being a head coach in the SEC. And as Director of Athletics, I am ready and poised for the challenge of mentoring a young head coach in the SEC. I have no doubt that Jordan is going to leave an indelible mark on our Razorback gymnastics program, and in fact, she already has started to leave that mark in the past 24 hours. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you the newest member of the Razorback family, the head coach of Razorback Gymnastics, Jordan Weber.
Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat G and Sports Talk Radio, and we're going to have a shortened edition, about 30 minutes, as to Demetrius and myself have some administrative things. I know we've been saying each and every Friday we have administrative stuff, but we got to pay bills, you got to get a lineup set up, and we want you guys to, be aware of all the new things up, in the horizon for OTH. Sauced Up Entertainment, KDSJ 479, all those things, just a lot going on. But we came in today with the press conference from new head women's gymnastics coach Jordan Weber. Will be taking over the program. 23 years old, Demetrius. 23 years old and the leader of a Power 5 major program in gymnastics. I'm telling you, in the SEC, has to be some of the best in the country. I mean, 23, is that a deterrent, or is that something I think you'll see more of a trend of with younger coaches coming into the collegiate profession?
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be a huge trend. I think a lot of schools are really starting to go to that. They're really starting to lean towards the younger guys, or in females, just having that relationship. They're closer in age, that can relate a little bit more. And I think, especially this generation, they're different. And you have to have that common bond, that one niche that you can see on a long-term scale, especially something like gymnastics. That's not something every person does like you would a football, baseball, softball. So it's interesting. I think, like you said, you will see more of that around the SEC.
Make a little side note. First sources: Hayes Myers, formerly the player of development at the University of Nevada, has been rumored to be making his way to Fayetteville to join Eric Musselman and staff here at the University of Arkansas. But make a note, Hayes Myers, that's a name you keep an eye on. He could be on staff here within the next 48 hours per sources. You heard it here on OTH firsthand, but, Coach Musselman, Demetrius, when I've looked at this, this guy is recruiting at a very high level. He's gotten out and offered a lot of 4- and 5-star kids, kids that are being considered by the Kentuckys and the Dukes and the North Carolinas, those types of programs. This is a guy that I've really felt, and I see what he's doing, kind of like Chad Morris. He's using the brand because Arkansas has to be a brand where it sells itself. You're in the SEC, that logo should continuously mean something, and I think that's what's starting to take place here at the University of Arkansas. Not that the previous coaches prior, because I thought Coach Anderson did a great job and his staff, great job of selling the program, and multiple guys from my era within his coaching staff went out and represented the university to the utmost, and we're able to get some top-notch kids in. But when you look at Chad and you look at Eric Musselman, and you look at now Coach Mike Neighbors, with their personality and what they're able to bring, the energy, I think that's the biggest difference, is the energy that they're infusing in these programs. You can kind of As you look at the staff that he has, and John Chavis, Mark Smith, Jeff Traylor, Joe Craddock, Justin Stepp, Kenny Ingram, Ron Cooper. I mean, you're talking about a staff, Steve Caldwell. You're talking about a group of recruiters that not only have done it for a short period of time, but for a long period of time. But we're going to step away, get us a real quick break, and then we'll be back with much, much more. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
You were involved in recruiting of athletes, and kind of what your recruiting plan is here to, up the ante here at University of Arkansas.
Yeah, so one of the main things about recruiting that I personally have not been able to do is off-campus recruiting. But I was able to participate in a lot of the on-campus recruiting. Whenever we had official or unofficial visits, I was able to interact with the athletes. I was able to meet with the coaches and analyze some of the talent and look at the recruits across the country. Obviously, there were some restrictions given my position, but I have learned so much over the years. I've had to take the recruiting exam for the past 3 years and aced it, so I'm pretty well versed on all of the compliance and recruiting rules, and I've been able to observe some of the best in that area especially, so I feel prepared to do it myself.
We'll go back over here to the right, Tom.
You talked about the guidance that Valerie has given you. She's married to Bobby Field, who played football right here, and I wonder if you've had that conversation with him about being at Arkansas, and had you toured the campus here before? Had you been on campus?
Well, Bobby is here today, and I thank him for being
Bobby.
here. And when I asked Bobby to teach me how to call the hogs, he said, well, I don't really know, because I was always one of the hogs being called. But of course, I seeked Bobby's input on this decision, and he only had tremendous things to say about the University of Arkansas. And then once I finally came out here and took a good visit and saw all the facilities and even the area, I'm absolutely in awe of Fayetteville and this town, and I absolutely loved it. And he was so right about all the things he said.
We'll go stage right, Alyssa.
Alyssa Orange, welcome. So I saw the video that you put out with the message to the girls, but to your team and what you want to do with your team right away, and then also when you build your staff, where are you looking at with your staff as well?
Yeah, I think for these girls, the first thing on my to-do list is putting together that staff, and it's another one of those puzzles. And I know the things that I bring, but I don't bring all of the things, and I want to find great assistant coaches who can assist me with the goals that I have and the goals that these girls have. So putting those puzzle pieces together is my first priority, and then once I get that done, figuring out what are we going to do over the summer to come in the fall and be really prepared and hit the ground running. One of the things that I really believe is when they want to learn new skills, we can't wait until the fall to learn new skills. That has to be done in the summer. So that's one of the things I'm going to express to the girls, and having those expectations for when they come back in the fall. So I'm excited to get started and get a really great strength and conditioning plan going for them. So obviously the talent here is quite incredible. And that was one of the reasons I decided to come here, is because I saw the special qualities about this team, and so I'm excited to help them take what they have and grow it even further.
To follow up, Hunter mentioned obviously you're 23 years old as a head coach in the SEC. How is age not going to be a factor for you, and how do you counteract that with the experience you've had as an Olympian?
Well, I look at my past experiences in this sport. I've seen it all, in the club level, in the elite level, and now at the college level. And I feel that that experience has equipped me for this, and I don't see age as a factor personally. And I'm excited to show everyone that, although I'm 23, I'm prepared for this, and I'm excited, and I'm ready to lead these women.
We'll go back to Tom.
Question for Hunter.
Welcome back. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk. It's the A edition, as we like to do each and every Friday, an abbreviated A edition. And we're going to get back to that full hour here soon. There's just a lot of things we like to do on the weekends, administrative-wise, and sometimes you can only fix it in the schedule when it deems feasible. And these last few Fridays have been some things we could work in, but we apologize. But just know we're going to get back to a full A and what you guys like on Friday as soon as we get everything administrative taken care of. But I want to go to football, and I'm of the belief we've had on several SEC analysts that come on each and every week, week during the football season on our caravan during the summertime, during media days. And Demetrius, I was looking at the draft last night. It's about defense now. That's what I've noticed. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes, and you can kind of see with the way the draft is that football has tremendously changed. 23 of the first 32 picks in the NFL draft, now get this, were on the line of scrimmage, offensive or defensive linemen or linebackers. What does that say? If you're a young man and you're a 6'5" power forward and you might want to play basketball, you run a 4.6 or so, you're about 235, 240. What does that say when you watch the NFL draft the way it was last night?
I just see really how the game's really changed. Like I was talking about yesterday, how you're not even seeing a lot of guys come from major schools anymore. Right. You're seeing guys from HBCUs come out the first round. You're seeing guys from non-Power 5 schools, and I think that's accredited to social media. I think the exposure to athletics has drastically changed since the showing of Instagram, and not only Instagram, just all social medias. And I think that's really why the game has improved so much. I think it's a lot faster, especially on defense. You know, speed was really taking on the skills position and the running backs, receivers. But now, like we was talking about yesterday about that defensive line, how you see guys running 4.5s, 4.4s, and how the game has just become so fast, and the type of body and the athletic build on the defensive line and offensive line has drastically changed since the beginning.
I mean, you talk about recruiting, and this is what's so evident. You look at Mississippi State, 3 defensive players were drafted in the first round. Hence the reason why they won the 5 best total defensive teams in the country. Clemson, with that defensive line that we all had a chance to watch over the last few years, 3 in the top 17 from their defensive line. But when you look at it even further, it's not really, a lot of people like to put a lot of stock in 5 stars. I'm more of the 4-star, 3-star guy, but there's a stat I watched yesterday. Now, the 32 picks, 8 were 5 stars coming out of high school. 10 were 4 stars, 10 were 3 stars, 2 were 2 stars, and there were 2 in the top 32 that were unranked coming out of their senior year. So it's all about what you do to me, to me, Demetrius, is what you do once you get to the collegiate level. Being a 5-star does not necessarily guarantee you success at the collegiate or the professional level. But what I am finding out is when you can find those high 3 stars, 4-star guys, your chances of being a very, very consistent program go up. And I think that's what Clemson has been able to do. You know, all this stuff, and they've only had, Demetrius, I think 1 or 2 top 5 classes during this big 7-8 year run that Dabo's had down there in Clemson, South Carolina. So what does that say? I mean, look at Josh Jacobs. Josh came into Alabama a 3-star and was a first-round pick in one of 3 that was selected, from their school. But the only running back taken in the first round. What does that say? I mean, it's a defensive world. I'm telling you, it's a defensive world. More speed. Montez Sweat runs a 4.3 at the defensive end. You got Quentin Williams running a 4.83 at the defensive tackle spot. Ed Oliver, he's a 4.7, 4.8 guy. I mean, the speed that we were able to see, and when you looked at Quinlan, Demetrius, we were on the sideline this past season when Alabama came rolling in. Number 92. What was your? Were you surprised that he was the 3rd pick in the NFL draft?
Not really. I mean, that guy was dominant, start to finish. And again, I think it's just the type of body he has. There's certain things you can coach, but then there's some things that are innate and just physically given. And I think he has both of those right. Innate ability to play football and the type of body that you really desire your defensive lineman to really have.
Well, we're going to take us a real quick break. We caught up with Chad Morris. And Chad's going to talk a little bit more in depth about the spring, how he felt like he got better. But when you look at this team, I just feel like the culture of this team is going to be so much more enhanced. And you may not see it in the wins and loss total, but I can see the belief that these young men are starting to have within Chad Morris' program, believing what he's doing schematically on offense and on defense, and the level that he's able to recruit. We can see he signed a top 20 class. That's something that hadn't been done here at the University of Arkansas, getting 14 four-star kids. That's another high achievement that you don't see from past coaches, and just the things that he's been able to do. I mean, here, see so many unofficial visitors coming into school. You go and you get grad transfers, Ben Hicks, guys like Nick Starkle. These guys are difference makers, and it's all about relationships and how people view your program and the culture that you're building. And and you look over at Mike Neighbors. This is the A, so we're going to talk more about the Arkansas program. Mike Neighbors has come in 2 years, took his team to the NIT, first team in year 2 women's basketball team here at Arkansas to ever play in the SEC championship game. He gets players in like a Chelsea Dungy, Ati Galden, Alexis Tollfree, Taylor Thomas, and the recruiting class that he's going to be bringing in, ranked 11th in the country, with multiple players. Amber Ramirez, a former McDonald's All-American that sat out this past season, will be joining. It's ironic, Demetrius, this is a way too early team that's ranked 22nd in the nation. But on to Coach Morris. Here's his words, and then we'll be back to finish this thing out. Here's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
Very productive. I thought that we got better as a football team. Obviously, year 2 of the culture has been huge for our football program. I think this is a closer football team than what we've been, and I know that the understanding of what's expected and what's asked of our players and our staff. Again, as year 2, you would expect them to fully understand all that. But so it's been good. I've been pleased with it. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do still.
Mm-hmm. Who stood out to you this spring?
Well, I think that there's several that have stood out that had a great spring. I think, obviously Sosa making the transition from outside to inside and being fully committed and bought in. I mean, one of the messages that I shared with him back in January is don't come back if you're not fully bought in and moving inside. And he understood that. He was great. He met with his family and said, Coach, I'm ready. And it paid off. I think he had an incredible spring. Cam Curl's another one that had a great spring defensively. I think offensive line-wise, we created some depth. We're still a long way away, but the addition of Myron Cunningham was huge. You would expect, Ty Clary to be better, and he was. And so again, a lot of work that has to be done. The focus of spring was to get this group ready for summer, and then adding 12 new additions to our roster in January. Trey Knox being one of them that had a really good spring. He was consistent. Devin Bush, Eric Gregory, Greg Brooks, Mateo Soli. I mean, these guys, all the guys that came in had an impact. And that's great to see. That's what you want with guys you've been recruiting to come in and create some depth.
Oh yeah, no, we started our third quarter phase, which will be about 2.5, right at 2.5 to 3 weeks of still weight work, skills and drills. So there'll be some coaches on the road recruiting. Some will be coming off the road at times to be able to get out there. We can be involved with them in some of the workouts with our strength staff. It's like your winter conditioning again, picking up.
Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our shortened edition today. As for those that have just tuned in, we'll have some administrative things that we have to take care of in the studio, or we might not be able to bring you, this broadcast, which is what we love to do. But we'll get it all straightened out, and we'll get back to our full hour of DA in the coming weeks. But I got a question before we wrap this thing up. We brought the audio in from Coach Chad Morris. Seems real excited about year 2. The culture, as we continue to talk about, is really, really on the uptick over on the Hill. But I want to go over to my co-host, my producer, Jimmy God. I call him, as y'all know it on this show, my home guy. And I have a question for you, Demetrius. SEC Media Day is coming up here July the 2nd or 3rd week in July. Arkansas will be taking the podium. Coach Morris will be going July 17th. We'll be heading down probably that Sunday. Out of all the SEC coaches that will be descending up on Birmingham and Hoover, Alabama, which coach are you most interested in listening to? This will be, I think, our 3rd or 4th Media Day, but which coach are you more intrigued to see what his views for his program are when we get down there this year?
I mean, there's no really specific coach that I'm really looking forward to, but I still think I'm most curious
You ain't trying
about.
to go to A&M or Alabama. I mean, I think you be on.
But you got to think a lot of these coaches we've seen in person, you know, already throughout the year. So it's.
I know you might be a Derek Mason. That might be your guy.
I mean, but I talked to Derek, and I already know kind of what they bring to the table. But like I said, there's really no specific coach that I really want to see. But the team that I'm probably most curious about is probably A&M,
right?
Because I think that's the team in the West that's really going to shake things up and really either be in the in the hunt with LSU and Alabama. So that's that, you know, team that I'm lurking in the bushes to really see who they bring to SEC Media Day, what they have to say, and how the demeanor in which they say the things pertaining to the football program.
I would have to say my team would have to be Arkansas. I want to see what Chad brings. I agree with you, Demetrius, about the points. Which players come with Chad, and then I want to see how they carry themselves. You know, last year I thought it was a really good senior group with Yelta and Dre and Santos. But I want to see, and you could tell they were buying in the beginning process, but I want to see how these young men, like if there's a Sosa, you know, some of the defensive linemen, will they take some of that, those veteran leaders? Will there be the running backs? You know, I think will it be an offensive lineman? You know, and just the way that they carry themselves and how they speak in year 2 of media days as far as their outlook toward the SEC upcoming season. Also, too, I'm really intrigued, and I said it before, Demetrius, I'm intrigued by Derek Mason and that football team. I think this is the football team that's going to make a lot of noise, and we said it about Kentucky, and we'll say it about Vanderbilt. This is going to be the team that's going to spoil it for one of the big 3 in the East.
I think it's going to be South Carolina. I think he has a lot of pressure on him. I think he has to turn this. This has to be the year he kind of solidifies himself as maybe the top 3 in the especially in the East, because you got Missouri that's already won the SEC championship. You have Florida with Dan Mullen that's really starting to make their way back. Like you said, you got Kentucky that's kind of climbing up the charts with Stoops. So I think South Carolina, you're either going to see him kind of make that step, or they're really going to hear, you're going to hear talks about him possibly, maybe not potentially getting fired this year, but I definitely think it'll be a rampant fan base coming next year at South Carolina.
Yeah, because I agree. I mean, Will's got his 4th class, and you hear me on the show, Demetrius, talk every time that I'm a believer of, giving a football coach 3 to 4 years to get his program implemented, get him about 3 or 4 good recruiting classes, and I think Will's done that. I think Will Muschamp. I'm looking at a 9 or 10 win season, somewhere around there for this South Carolina football team, as they have a tremendous amount of experience, and I think that's going to be one of the main things in the eastern side this year is the experience factor. But I do think the position that everyone's going to talk about in the SEC football as a whole, East and West, will be the defensive lines across the conference. There's a lot of NFL talent on these offensive and defensive line, but even more so on the defensive line, Demetrius. We've seen some big-time playmakers over the last few years, and it's only been the maturation. These guys have been freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and now some of them are coming into their senior year. So, in my opinion, the position that's going to have the most hype, the most talent will be on the defensive line in the SEC. It will be defensive line. It'll be their year, and the year of the running back, in my opinion. But, that's going to wrap it up today. For all of you that tuned in, we'll be back on Monday. I want to give a shout-out for the week for my producer.